Okay. Okay, you ready? Good. Recessions are not a bad thing. And we're here to talk about why and how that impacts not only real estate, but other impacts. Jesus Christ, I can't even talk today. It's great. So the recession affects not just real estate, but it affects other parts of our lives. But more importantly, understanding truly what it is. And although, like we were talking about, inflation does affect parts of it, it's important to kind of understand what it is. So fill us in, Audrey, with your wise words.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people love to throw around the word of a recession or, inflation or Fed rate or whatever without like a true grasp of what that means. And we feel effects of the economy, right? Like, so we feel the effects of inflation. And so inflation is really just simply like inflated prices on goods and services. That's where we feel it the most. It's a widespread economic inflation, but we feel it as a consumer at the gas pump, at the grocery store, right? And we have felt that. And so for people, the average consumer, when they feel that inflation, right, that's a direct effect on them. And the reason why we have inflation, right, is because we've seen this booming economy, this unsustainable economy for the last couple of years. And it's just unsustainable. And so we can't have prices increasing, right, and the economy going at the rate that it's going without having a major economic crash. And so the reason that the Fed has increased the Fed rate, which has caused inflation to increase, is to try to get a hold on the economy and to try to slow things down a little bit, which is what we want, right? And so that's like the biggest impact that we see as a consumer, the average person, is inflation and how we feel that. And, people get a little bit confused thinking that the Fed rate has a direct impact on the 30-year fixed, right? Because people will say, oh, the Fed rate increased, so the 30-year fixed mortgage rate must increase. And that's not how it works, right? They're not directly tied. They're correlated, but they're not directly tied, because when the Fed rate is increased, right, that is the Fed trying to get control on the economy, trying to slow things down. So like when we saw the Fed rate, Powell came out and did a 0.5 increase, or 0.75, can't remember what the last one was. But because he did that, right, and that was what we were anticipating, the markets responded favorably to that.
Right.
And we actually saw a small dip in the 30-year fixed. And the reason that was because when he came out, he also said some really positive things about, we're finally seeing impact of increasing this, the Fed rate, right, and the impact of inflation on the economy. We're finally seeing things slow down, which is what we want to see. And so, believe it or not, that was actually what caused interest rates to drop. When the Fed comes out and they have positive things to say about the control that they're having on inflation, that's when markets respond and they're like, okay, this is what we want. We feel confident that the Fed's actually getting a control on inflation, and so then they can respond favorably. So we saw that dip, like half a point dip in interest rates. And so it's important to understand how they all work together, but also to know that they're not directly correlated, and that what we're trying to see, with the recession, from a real estate standpoint, we want a recession, because typically, historically, interest rates will drop during a recession point. Now, knowing what they'll drop to or what they have dropped from, that's not something we can ever anticipate.
Right.
And so for people that are sitting on the fence, like, well, rates will drop during the recession, they will. But what are they going to drop from? Is it going to get lower than the rate that we see today if we see volatility in the next year with interest rates? If we hit 7.5, if we hit 8, whatever that could be, and then they just drop down to 6.5, maybe you're better to buy today.
Right.
And so it's not something that you want to anticipate or try to time, right? Because usually people that try to time the market miss it. And so it's not one of those things. We just have to understand what's coming. And really, when we're talking about a recession, what we want is an economic downturn. And we've seen such a huge boom. So what they're looking for really is like, job loss and consumer spending to decrease.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've seen, with this inflation getting so high. People are not spending like they used to spend, which is exactly what we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to see salary take a dip. We need to see people that are staying unemployed.
So to your point, Audrey, like obviously we don't want to see people lose their jobs or stay unemployed or
struggle,
not be able
to
buy their groceries. The Fed wants to, not us.
Right.
But it is, again, kind of the harsh part of what has to happen in a recession.
Right.
And we hope that no one obviously has to reap those consequences, but that's just kind of part of how that hamster wheel kind of turns.
Yeah, and understanding how that works. Knowing what they're looking for, so that we knowing that the struggle is just part of the system, of the cycle.
Struggle is real.
Yeah, the struggle is real, especially in a recession. But, they're always light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to know what to expect, And like you said, we don't want to see people struggle, but this is what the economy needs, right, to help balance us out, the things that they're looking for. So, yeah. And so when these are like measures that the Fed is specifically looking for to gauge how we're dealing with the inflation, to make sure that the economy is actually slowing down, and then we'll feel more confident. And when the economy slows down, then interest rates will drop to help to boost the economy, to boost the housing market.
Yep.
And so it's an interesting,
weird vibe.
Yeah, it's a lot. And you just need to know at a high level, like not everyone's super into stats or whatever, but you need to understand generally how it works, because you need to know enough to know that the Fed rate is not the 30-year fixed. You need to know that a recession is not bad for housing. You need to know that a recession or inflation is what's going to bring the market back down to normal.
Yep.
So there's a lot of these scary, we've talked about these scary headlines that it's, intimidating, to read these headlines.
That's a great word for that,
and if you don't know enough about what's really going on or how they really impact, it's, we just trust the media.
Knowledge is key, and when you're not talking to trusted professionals, no matter what it is, no matter what industry, it's going to make a difference in what you understand and how you use that information. Yeah.
And I think people's biggest concern always when we talk about recession or housing recession is, 2008, the crash of 2008. Mm-hmm. And the biggest difference between that is homeowners today nationwide are sitting at 58% equity in their homes. And back in 2008, they had like 19% equity. So from an equity position, we're sitting on trillions of dollars of equity in the nation, to where these people who do experience economic hardship are not in a position where this is make or break for them with their housing expenses. They're either able to do a HELOC or they're able to sell with equity, even as, prices have fallen a little bit nationwide, and in the Denver market too. Even with house prices falling 7%, 8%, they're still sitting on this nest egg of huge equity that they're able to work with.
Right.
And so there's a lot of things that are, different in the housing market from where they were back in 2008. And I think that's like the biggest thing for people to remember is we did learn a lot from that time, right? Yep. And we have made all these stops kind of to make sure that we don't reach that position again. And so recessions are, they can be intimidating, they can be scary, they're not always bad. It's just important to know how recessions affect the economy and how the economy affects you, and then to be able to use that information to help make sure you're making the best decisions going forward.
Well, and just like anything, change has to happen. And we were, people like to say, the bubble's going to burst. We don't really have a bubble to burst anymore. After 2008, we've never had a bubble to burst, to be honest. But we do have to see this ever evolving kind of hamster wheel of like, okay, we're going to like rev all the way up, and then it's going to fall and keep spinning. And so we're in the fall.
Yeah.
We're peaking the fall so that we can keep spinning.
Yeah.
It's a terrible analogy, but
no, totally. We're like right at the top.
We are. We're ready
here.
Yep.
But we're about to,
because it's not like a roller coaster, because a roller coaster continues.
Right.
We build up, we build up, we fall. We build up, we build up, we fall. So I think it's just important, because regardless of real estate, a lot of people, like you said, don't know what a recession is. It's pretty simple. You have to crash it to build it back up, to crash it to build it back up. So if you guys have any questions about recession, we're not obviously gurus on how that works, but we do know enough about how it impacts real estate.
Yeah.
So please feel free to comment, reach out to us. You can DM us. We can certainly, put you in the right direction if we can answer your questions. But I think it's just a super important topic right now, especially since it's so top of mind.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, subscribe, or comment, and we'll be happy to reach out to you. I can't. That just felt too cheesy. Okay. If you like this video, like, subscribe, or comment, and we're happy to reach out. I know.
We're reaching out. Why are we reaching out?
I don't fucking know.
Are we supposed to reach out?
Why is this part so hard? If you like this video, like, subscribe, or comment.
Okay, I'm gonna try it.
Okay.
If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe or comment so that we know that you're out there with us. Boom. Done.